A Tale of a Muslim Girl and Her Infidel Lover. A novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. This is an intriguing epic story which resonates with love, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Before we dive into the tapestry of the story, I would like to inform the reader that this novel is narrated in 3 books. Book 2. The Muslim Apostate Girl and Her Christian Infidel Lover. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs for a review to be printed in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. This novel is a work of fiction, but the entire story is based on the real life of a Muslim girl in Sudan. All names, characters, places, and events are either the product of the author's imagination or used literary. Any resemblance to actual people, living or dead, events, or locales is merely coincidental. Chapter 11. The Fugitive Lover in the Most Dangerous Region in Sudan. The slow lorry had finally died a half-day walking distance to the Janaina city. The passengers pushed and pushed for more than 2 miles, but the engine could not restart again. Eventually, the driver gave up any hope of resurrecting his dead slow beast and therefore told the passengers to continue their trip to the city on foot. Dr. Samir was shocked when he saw all the passengers along with their little ones and their animals began to walk on foot. Even the driver and the lorry conductor joined the group on their walk toward the city. The persecuted Christian infidel lover of the terribly abused Muslim apostate girl had been left with no choice. He joined the group too. In fact, the lorry expired on its 3rd day in the morning from the day it left Nyala city. It became a total and complete loss vehicle. The passengers walked from morning to evening until they reached Janaina city. Dr. Samir entered the city dragging his legs. His legs became numb and lifeless limbs. The first thing he looked for was a place to sleep. One of those miserable passengers showed him a nearby motel. He was forced to crawl on his lifeless legs and walked until he reached the motel. As soon as he got the key, he dragged his feet and walked to his room. Then he fell into the bed and went into a deep coma. When he resurrected from that comatose state, it was again the evening time of the following day. He slept for 24 hours without movement or dreaming. At that time only he began to feel that he was hungry and thirsty. He had been starving against his wish for more than 2 days. He went to the motel restaurant and ordered food and water. He did not know which type of meat he had eaten. He would have eaten any meat of any animal on earth that the restaurant served him at that time. In Darfur province, rats and locusts are among the edible creatures. If you are a new visitor in the region, you may be cheated in a restaurant and serve any bush meat from the wilderness. When he ate his first meal after more than 48 hours of starving, Dr. Samir returned to his room and fell asleep again. When he woke up, he felt he was having all kinds of sickness. His stomach had emptied everything he ate the previous evening in the restaurant. He was having headache, fever, and an unsettled stomach. He used whatever he had of medicine that he thought was appropriate to cure himself. It took him 3 days to come out of that hellish sickness. On the 4th day, the runaway Christian lover of the Muslim apostate girl Infidel felt he was fit enough to resume his plan of escaping out of the country of the lover's persecution, where love between a Muslim girl and a Christian man was considered a crime punishable by the law. The motel manager told him from Janaina to Chad there were not any kinds of modern means of transportation. As soon as the person emerges out of the suburbs of the city, he will enter into the war zone. It is also called the lawless area. The Janjaweed, for rebels and road robbers, are the law and the judges of the region. Every male is armed and dangerous. Children as small as 10 to 12 years are armed with AK-47 Kalashnikovs. Saudi Arabia is recruiting every year thousands of those Sudanese child soldiers in their war against the Iranian-supported Houthi rebels in Yemen. According to the leader of the Janjaweed, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, who is also known as Hemedti, there are 30,000 Sudanese child soldiers fighting in Yemen. The government of Khartoum had changed the name of those bloodthirsty murderers from Janjaweed, which means devils on horses, to the Rapid Support Forces. Changing their name is just like poisonous snakes shedding their skins and continuing to be venomous and deadly. There are also thousands of Sudanese Janjaweed child soldiers fighting as paid mercenary soldiers in the Libyan civil war. The Janjaweed use horses, the road robbers use camels, and the fur rebels roam on foot. No train, car, truck, or any other vehicle is allowed in that war zone. The only exemption is the Sudanese Army Air Force, which uses airplanes to bombard the towns and villages of the Fur and other Sudanese African Muslim tribes to prepare the way for the devils on horses or Janjaweed to carry their killings, lootings, raping, and burning down the bombarded towns or villages of the Fur. Someone from the local market came up with a strange idea for Dr. Samir. He told him to buy a donkey. The fugitive lover believed the suggestion of that person and bought a donkey and began his journey on it. Before he left the city, he bought some dry food such as dates, fish, bread, cookies, candies, etc. He also bought a water container made out of animal skin. He filled that skin container with fresh water and trusted his luck and began his trip into the land without laws. Dr. Samir began his journey at noontime. The donkey is the slowest means of transportation in that part of the world. He had been wisely advised not to try to buy a horse or camel. If he traveled by horse, the Fur rebels would mistake him for a Janjaweed fighter and shoot and kill him a mile away. If he traveled on a camel, then both the Fur rebels and the Arab Janjaweed would kill him as a hambadi or road robber. Therefore, the safest thing to do was to travel by the lowest and slowest and the most foolish means of ancient transportation. In Sudan, it is believed that the donkey is the most stupid animal in the world. Dr. Samir's progress was slow, and that slow speed could be expected from a traveler who was traveling on the back of a donkey. He had no knowledge of the region, and had no idea of the danger involved. Bearing in mind his love as his ultimate target of reaching his beloved princess, he was determined to take the risk. The first danger he encountered was a group of notorious murderers, devils on horses who were known as the Janjaweed. He came across them just a few kilometers out of the city. They were over 30 horsemen. They had their machine guns in their hands. They were covering their faces like those Rashida women, except that one could see their bloodshot red eyes. Their arms and shoulders were bare and full of amulets. In that region, most of the people believe those talismans can protect them from guns, bullets, snakes, and scorpions' poisons. "Salamu alaikum, brother," said one of them in a loud voice. "Walaikum salam," replied Dr. Samir in a wavering voice. "From where the brother is coming?" "I am from the city of Junaina." The Janjaweed had mistaken Dr. Samir for a Muslim brother like them. His reddish complexion, clothes, and beard spoke before he uttered a word. When he spoke, his pure Arabic tongue proved his truthfulness. "Our brother, it is dangerous for you to travel all alone in this area. I trust in Allah to protect me. May Allah and His angels be with you." Dr. Samir felt great relief when that conversation ended there. He then struck the back of his donkey with the small whip he had in hand and resumed his hazardous journey. While his little beast was moving slowly from that gang of murderers, he felt as if he passed by wild beasts and miraculously saved from them. The second danger he met was a group of camel men. His donkey saw them before him. The beast of burden stopped and refused to move, although Dr. Samir struck its back several times. Before he could figure out why his donkey had suddenly stopped and become stubborn, his ears were deafened by the sound of the gun firings. Dr. Samir could hear the bullets passing over and beside him. He began to shake when he saw a group of camel men standing in front of him, as if they were sitting on 4 hills. Their faces were not covered like those Janjaweed he met a few hours ago. He could make out from their faces that they were African Sudanese. Dr. Samir knew that the camel men did not want to kill him but scare him. Jalabi wad haram, said one of the 4 camel men. Dr. Samir understood the words of the camel men, and thought his end had come. Those words were not greetings or inquiring about his affair but bad words and insults. They could be translated as a northern Arab man, son of adultery, or an illegitimate child. When Dr. Samir did not reply to his words, the camelman drove near him and struck him with a long whip. The doctor felt a terrible pain when that whip hit his shoulder. The Hambadi man repeated his strike several times until Dr. Samir fell off his donkey. "Please, brother, don't hit me again," pleaded the fugitive lover. Wad al-Sharmuda. "In the city, you call me a bid and here you call me a brother," said the Hambadi man angrily. The Hambadi man likewise mistook Dr. Samir for an Arab Sudanese. Therefore he said to him, "Son of a prostitute. In the city, you call me a slave and here you call me a brother. I hadn't called anyone a slave before. I swear by the grave of my late father that today, I will not spare your life if you don't come and bow down and kiss my dirty feet," said the Hambadi man with determination. Dr. Samir hesitated to do so at first, but when the Hambadi man opened fire around him and kicked the dust off, he got up and went and kissed the dirty shoes of the Hambati man. "You are as lion in the city and a chicken in the wilderness." The other 3 camel men began to laugh loudly when they heard their fellow speak those words. "Listen to me, you coward Jalabi man. If you want to see the sunrise tomorrow, then leave your donkey and everything on it and walk away." For the sake of preserving his life and reaching his beloved girlfriend Ibtihal, the fugitive lover Samir left his donkey and his food and water to the road robbers and walked and continued his dangerous trip on foot. Chapter 12. The fugitive doctor falls captive in Darfur province. Dr. Samir lost his food and water and his beast of burden. The highway robbers had stolen the slow donkey of his hazardous trip before he could reach the Sudanese-Chadian border. He was forced to continue his hazardous exodus to freedom on foot without his donkey. In that lawless region, he was vulnerable to the attack of wild beasts such as wolves and hyenas as well as human beasts. He had no means of defense. Even so, the fugitive lover was determined to continue his dangerous trip with the hope of reaching his beloved Princess Ibtihal. Whatever he had gone through thus far, he considered it nothing compared to the many dangers, hardships, and sacrifices his Muslim beloved girlfriend went through for the sake of their love. While he was walking, he came across many burned down and deserted villages. He hoped that his feet would take him to a place where he could spend the night safely and find food and water to buy. The night became a covering and hid him from the wild beasts of that valley of the shadow of death. However, he would not dare to sleep on the way due to the fear of being bitten by a poisonous snake or a scorpion. He walked and walked until he saw on the far horizon the red rays of the rising sun of the new day. By then, he had become so exhausted and tired. He could hardly move his legs. He was hungry and extremely thirsty. Forced by the weakness of those instincts, he collapsed in the road and became motionless for a while. He then tried to stand up, but he couldn't. He remained lying in the road half conscious and half dead. While he was in that comatose state, Dr. Samir heard the walking feet of people approaching him. He forced his eyes and opened them. The bright rays of the sun could not allow him to see who those people who reached him and stood near him. He could hear them talking in a language that he could not understand. He felt one of them put a vessel of water near his dried lips. He opened his mouth and allowed the water to be poured into his thirsty mouth and empty stomach. He then felt hands take hold of him and lift him from the ground. The water that poured into his mouth gave him little strength, and enabled him to stand on his feet and look around him. He saw a group of young boys surrounding him. Every one of them was carrying a machine gun in his hands. Some of them were such small children that he thought they were carrying toy guns. One of them hit him with a gun in his stomach. "Where are your other devils on horseback? Had they left you dying here?" asked in a broken Arabic the same boy who struck him. "I have no friends. I am a stranger. I came all the way from Khartoum City," said Dr. Samir in a faint voice. "If you are not a Janjaweed, then who are you?" "I am a medical doctor and freelance journalist." "Where are your medical equipment and camera?" "Some camel men beat me and robbed everything I had. They were Hambada. I don't know who they were." "How do we know you are not lying to us?" "This man doesn't look like a Janjaweed," said another child soldier. "But he is an Arab," said yet another child rebel. "We have to take him to our village chiefs. Let them interrogate him and find out who he is." Dr. Samir knew that he fell hostage into the hands of the Fur rebels. He expected that their leaders would mistake him for an Arab Sudanese and kill him. The young boys gave him some food to eat, and also gave him more water to drink again. Then they tied his hands behind his back and ordered him to walk with them. The rebels left the main road and took a narrow way. The way was among bushes and stones. It was difficult for Dr. Samir to walk between those thorny bushes and sharp stones. He had a tough time walking in that narrow way while his hands were tied together behind his back. Whenever he stumbled on a large stone or a hole, he fell headlong and injured his face. Every time he fell, his captors laughed at him and made fun of him. They refused to help him to stand and beat him with whips until they forced him to stand again on his feet. After 2 hours of walking, they reached a small remote village. 2 of those armed boys took him to a small hut. Some little African children surrounded him and began to hit and kick him. Some young girls removed their shoes and beat him on his back and shoulders. Aged men and old women, likewise, hit him and spat on his face. One of the rebel boys who found Dr. Samir lying half dead on the road and took him captive and brought him to their village shouted at the crowd in their language. The male children and young women ran away when they saw an elderly man come out of a big hut. The elderly man was followed by a group of 5 old men. Dr. Samir had perceived that those were the leaders who were supposed to decide on his life or death. Chapter 13. There was no girl called Sulama in the women's shelter. We have mentioned enough for the time being about those tragic events that the so-called infidel Christian lover of the Muslim apostate girl was going through to reach her. Before we resume the narration of his hazardous trip, we need to go back to Athens and see what had happened to his beloved girlfriend and how far the investigations into those terrorist attacks had reached. The CIA team returned to Athens with the shocking news that the main suspected Muslim woman herself was a victim of a terrorist attack and abuse in Sudan. What complicated the case are some difficult questions. How did she manage to escape from the death penalty? Who were the gunmen that killed 9 policemen and her 4 guards and rescued her from the gallows? Who were the 4 guards who hanged the Sharia court's judge who condemned her to death? How did she manage to escape from Sudan to Libya? Who helped her to get a Libyan passport and a fake visa? How did she land at the Arab Muslim women's shelter in Athens? Unless those important questions have been answered to the satisfaction of the CIA team and the Greek police, the suspected Sudanese woman has to remain in detention. The CIA team requested the Athenian police to allow them to interrogate the prime suspect, the Sudanese girl Ibtihal, who is also called Mastora. The Athenian police reluctantly granted the request of the CIA team. By then, 2 weeks had passed since the Greek police arrested Ibtihal along with the other young Arab girls who used to live with her at the Muslim women's shelter. During this period, she spent very horrific days and sleepless nights in Athenian detention. During the day she was constantly harassed by many interrogations, and during the night her mind was attacked by horrible nightmares. She did not know why wherever she went she fell into trouble. When she fled to Eritrea with her Christian lover they were arrested and brought back to Sudan, and got jailed and condemned as a rebellious Muslim girl, and an adulterous Arab wife. When she fled to the south of Sudan, she was betrayed by the Christian sister of her infidel African lover and brought back to the north. Then she got tried and convicted as a Muslim apostate girl, and the judge of the Sharia court sentenced her to die through hanging. When she got kidnapped, taken to Libya, and smuggled to the west, she had been arrested and accused as a Muslim terrorist girl. She felt that her father and family might have cursed her because she disobeyed them by falling in love with an infidel Christian man. She often pleaded with the Lord to forgive her and remove any curse that might have been placed on her by her family. When she was a Muslim girl at school, she learned that if a girl's father dies while he is angry with her, Allah and His Prophet shall curse that rebellious daughter, and make her suffer and feel rejected and despised by people wherever she goes. At any rate, on the 15th day, the prime suspect Ibtihal was brought into a room where she found more than 10 men and women sitting around a big table. She was handcuffed. She was told to sit on a chair. She had not been informed that the police were able to dig some information about her past life in Sudan. She sat quietly and faced the rest of the police interrogators. One young American woman narrated to her what they were able to know about her trial and conviction at the religious court in Sudan. Then the American woman told her they want her to cooperate with them and reveal what the police had not known yet. She was warned that if she still wanted to hide anything, she would spend the rest of her life behind bars. She promised she would not hold anything from them she knew. Our first question is, who were the people who intercepted the police convoy and killed the 13 Sudanese police officers and rescued you? I don't know who they were, ma'am. At least, did you ask any one of them who he was? I asked their leader, but he made fun of me. He said they were angels sent by God to rescue me. Did you believe that they were God's angels? No, ma'am. Why didn't you believe him? Because God would not send angels to kill innocent policemen and prison guards to rescue me. Okay, how did you manage to escape out of Sudan and enter Libya without a Sudanese passport and Libyan visa? I had been smuggled by some nomadic Arab caravan. Who were they? I had never seen them before. Those gunmen who rescued me from my execution had brought me to them. The leader of those gunmen told the head of that caravan, his boss sent him to hand me over to him. What was the name of the boss? I don't know anything about him. What was the name of the leader of the caravan? His name was Zubair al-Rashidi, and his daughter Mastora. Was he the one who changed your name from Ibtihal to Mastora, and gave you his last name? Wasn't he? The man who obtained a passport and visa for me in Libya had a daughter by the same name of Mastora, and he also was known as Al-Zubair al-Rashidi. He was the one who changed my name without asking for my permission. How did you meet this Al-Zubair in Tripoli city? The Rashidi man who smuggled me out of Sudan and brought me to Libya placed me in his care. Okay, I can understand that the first Rashida man agreed to smuggle you out of Sudan to Libya because he had a connection with a gang. Usually, gangsters call their ringleader our boss. Why did that second Rashidi man in Libya agree to get a passport and visa for you? The first Rashidi man who brought me from Sudan had paid him $2,000 in front of me and asked him to smuggle me to a Western country. The same man also gave me $2,000 American dollars, and then he made me write a statement to mention all the good he did to me and made me sign it. Because he wanted to show it to the gang in Sudan to get paid for smuggling you. He did not tell me why he wanted me to write the statement. Then after that, you traveled to Greece through a Libyan ship. Who received you at the Athens International Airport, and who directed you to the Arab Muslim women's shelter? Al-Zubair al-Rashidi, who arranged my overseas trip, told me some people would meet me at the time of my arrival in the Athens International Airport, and they would provide me with free accommodation and food for 2 months. Who were they? They were a Muslim couple known as Sister Sakina, and her husband was called Brother Abbas. Did they meet you at the Athens International Airport and provided you with free lodging? Yes, they did. How long did you stay in their house before you moved to the Arab Muslim women's shelter? I had never been to their house. They received me at the Athens International Airport and took me directly to the young Muslim women's shelter. Had they ever invited you to their house? They hadn't. Had they ever visited you in the shelter? Only Sister Sakina came once and visited me at the women's shelter. When did she come to visit you? On the first week of my stay in the shelter. Why did she come to see you? Sister Sakina asked me to help her in writing a letter to someone whom she did not tell his name, or who was he to her. In the letter, she mentioned that I arrived safely in Athens and she and her husband had helped me in finding free accommodation and food for 2 months. To whom did she address that letter? To whom it may concern. Did you write and sign that anonymous letter, or did she write it and then asked you to sign it? Sister Sakina wrote it herself, and then she asked me to sign it. Did she talk to anyone when she came to visit you? She didn't talk to anyone in my room, but after she left the room, I met her again in the cafeteria when I went for my dinner. Did she talk to you again? No, she didn't, but I saw her sitting in a far corner and talking with my roommate Salama and other young women. Were those young women also staying in the Arab women's shelter? They weren't, but they came often to the shelter and chatted with Salama. Can you tell us what kind of people the wife Sakina and her husband Abbas? They were a very devoted Muslim couple. Since you had never been to their house, how did you then know that they were a very devoted Muslim couple? On the day they came and received me at the airport and took me to the women's shelter, I noticed that for more than 2 hours they were only listening to the Quranic recitation in their car. Moreover, they neither said anything to me nor spoke a word to each other. Besides that, the way they dressed up revealed they were deeply religious Muslims. Sister Sakina wasn't happy when she saw my head was without a hijab, and my hair was fully exposed. In addition, Brother Abbas refused to shake my hand when I offered to greet him. I know only the deeply religious Muslim man would refuse to touch the hand of a woman who was neither his wife nor his sister. Excellent observation. Can you say anything more about them? If they were deeply religious and good Muslims as you said, why did they deal with a man like Al-Zubair al-Rashidi, who made a fake Western visa for Greece, and made a Libyan passport for a smuggled Sudanese girl who didn't live in his country for more than a couple of weeks? I had not said they were good Muslims. I had said they were a very devoted Muslim couple. I meant to say they were very committed Muslims. But Al-Zubair al-Rashidi, who forged your visa and made your Libyan passport, had a connection with them. I don't know why they were dealing with someone like that. Who was Salama? She was a Muslim Palestinian girl who used to share with me the same room in the women's shelter. We were 6 girls staying in the same room. We slept on 3 bunk beds. The shelter management said there was no Palestinian girl by that name. There was no name like that found in all their records. Ma'am, if you don't believe me, you can ask my other roommates. You can talk to Aisha, Hafsa, Khadija, and Zainab. The Greek police talked to them, but they all said there was no girl by that name in their room. They can't deny that. She remained with me after Aisha, Khadija, and Hafsa left the shelter. Even the other 3 girls who replaced them had seen her. No Muslim woman ever claimed to have seen or heard about a Palestinian girl by that name except you. How could you expect us to believe you and consider every Muslim woman in the shelter was lying to the police? Ma'am, I am quite sure that one of the girls who were living with me in the same room had told me her name was Sulema, and she said she was from Palestine. The Athenian police are holding you as the prime suspect in those well-planned terrorist attacks because you had lied in your statement. Most probably, you had invented this non-existent entity called Sulema because you wanted to shift the blame to her. Ma'am, how could I just invent a fictional entity if she hadn't lived with me in the same room? Okay, we have to leave it for the time being. Now we are going to detain and interrogate the wife Sakina and her husband Abbas. Chapter 14. The Insurmountable Terrorist Case. The arrest and interrogation of Sakina and Abbas made the case of the Sudanese girl Ibtihal more complicated. Both husband and wife denied that they had met the Sudanese girl Ibtihal on the day of her arrival at the Athens International Airport and took her to the women's shelter. They said that they saw her for the first time only in the mosque during Friday public prayer. The shelter management confirmed their statement that the Libyan Mastora came by herself and requested them for accommodation. When she showed her valid Libyan passport, the shelter accepted her because she was an Arab Muslim girl. Consequently, Sakina and Abbas were released after 24 hours of their detention. Also, 45 Arab girls were allowed to return to their shelter. The 5 roommates were kept in detention. The Greek police continued to hold the Sudanese girl Ibtihal as the prime suspected Muslim woman. The entire department of the police believed that she was the one who made the anonymous phone call from the women's shelter and informed a top terrorist leader of ISIS in Syria that the attacks on the city would be carried out soon. Accordingly, the Greek police harassed her day and night and turned her life into a living hell. Notwithstanding, the members of the CIA still believed that the case of the Sudanese woman was surrounded by some mystery, and they should figure out how they could penetrate that difficult terrorist case. They found it difficult to believe that the Muslim apostate woman who suffered so much in her country because she fell in love with a Christian man and converted to his religion could change overnight and become part of a terrorist network and then participated in such well-thought-out terrorist attacks on Athens. The same suspected Muslim woman was condemned to death by an Islamic court in Sudan for her conversion from Islam to Christianity, and after less than 4 months, she had been arrested as a prime suspect in the deadliest terrorist attacks in Europe. Either there were totally 2 different Sudanese women and somehow they got confused as the same woman, or there was some mystery that needed to be solved. The CIA team inquired about the religious commitment of Ibtihal while she was in the shelter. All her roommates and the shelter administration testified that she was a very committed Muslim girl. She always performed her 5 daily prayers with other young Muslim women in the shelter. She had never missed any Friday public prayer in the mosque. She attended the Quranic recitation every evening and participated in it. Accordingly, the American team found nothing to make them doubt the religious commitment of the Sudanese girl Ibtihal to her Islamic faith. Even so, the team found itself challenged by an extraordinarily difficult and mysterious criminal case. At the time being, it had appeared to those American experts in Muslim terrorism as an insurmountable terrorist case. Then the CIA team began to focus its efforts on finding out the gunman who helped the Muslim apostate girl Ibtihal escape the death penalty, and where her Christian lover had gone, and where he was hiding now. The detained Sudanese girl Ibtihal couldn't help them in either case. She had no idea where her Christian lover disappeared, and who were her rescuers. Who was the boss who had planned and carried out her escape from the death penalty? So the American team had decided to send again some of its members back to Sudan and try to solve those 2 questions and gather more information about the detained Sudanese girl Ibtihal regarding her love affair and her apostasy out of Islam and conversion to Christianity. Meanwhile, Ibtihal's mind was tormented regarding the mysterious disappearance of the Palestinian girl, Sulema, and why every Muslim woman in the shelter denied her existence. Could she possibly have imagined or hallucinated the existence of a girl who in fact had never existed? Moreover, Ibtihal had been also troubled by the information that reached her through the Greek police that the Libyan wife Sakina and her Egyptian husband Abbas had said they did neither meet her on her arrival day, nor they did take her to the young women's shelter. Such information had made her concluded that she had fallen victim to an evil conspiracy plotted by some dangerous Muslim terrorists in Greece. Chapter 15. The Praise of the Muslim Apostate Girl in Sudan. According to Greek law, the suspect must be brought before the court within a month from the time of his arrest, otherwise be set free. The day of the first hearing was fixed for the court appearance for the 5 suspects. In the meantime, the CIA team members returned to Sudan to conduct their second investigation on the case of the young Sudanese woman, who was accused of taking a vital role in one of the deadliest attacks that the Islamic terrorists had ever done in a Western country. By then, the case became public in Sudan, and many media venues published it. The Khartoum government was able to keep it away from the media when the CIA team conducted the first investigation. However, this time, the local and national Sudanese media picked up the news from the international media and made it the breaking news in Sudan. The Sudanese people were astonished when they came to know that the same Muslim apostate woman who despised Islam and brought stigma to her royal family was the same woman who brought great honor to her religion by participating in one of the most successful jihadi attacks on the enemies of Allah in the 21st century. In the minds of millions of Sudanese, she had been suddenly transformed from being the wife of Satan to the angel of Allah. Many women praised the womb of the mother that carried her, and the holy pussy of the woman that gave birth to her. Some men had been moved by their zeal for Islam, composed religious songs in her praise. Some religious leaders preached in their Friday public prayer sermons in the mosques, and informed their devotees that Allah had granted full forgiveness to that brave Muslim woman for what she had done in her past, and she would receive a great reward in paradise. They said such a blessed jihadi girl would become one of the virgins of paradise when she died, and be given to a blessed Muslim man as one of his 72 virgins. Some of them claimed that the Sudanese Muslim woman created the drama of her pseudo-conversion to Christianity to facilitate her immigration to the West and hide her ulterior motive for jihad. Meanwhile, the members of the CIA team could neither succeed in their efforts to find out who were the gang members who rescued Dr. Ibtihal nor were able to locate the hiding place of her Christian lover Dr. Samir. This time, the Khartoum police openly hindered the CIA team's efforts to carry out a successful investigation. The only thing that they were able to get was the sample of the DNA test that was conducted on Dr. Ibtihal when the Sharia court wanted to verify that her first baby was not the son of her Muslim husband Tariq, but the son of her psychiatrist rapist Ismail. For the CIA team, this test was so important because they were already challenged by the Greek police that the woman who was caught in connection with the terrorist attacks in Athens was not the same woman who was involved in a religious dispute in Sudan. On the other hand, the CIA team members were certain she was the same woman in both cases. The DNA test could disprove one of the two claims and confirm the other. As soon as the team arrived in Athens, a DNA test was conducted on the suspected Sudanese girl Ibtihal. The DNA test result had proven with 99% accuracy that the same woman, who was condemned to death because she was publicly denounced her Islamic religion and embraced Christianity, was the same woman who was suspected of participating in the cowardly terrorist attacks on Athens. After the result came in their favor, the members of the American team engaged in an intellectual dispute with the Greek police. The main goal of the CIA team was to prove that the Sudanese young woman had nothing to do with the Muslim terrorists who attacked Athens. They said the Greek police must admit that it failed so far in laying hands on the actual people who planned and carried out the attacks. Then the two teams must join their efforts together and begin a fresh search for the terrorists who were still at large. The Greek police stood firmly on their decision that the same Muslim woman who made the phone call from the Arab women's shelter was the same young woman that they were holding as the prime suspect. On the first hearing, the Muslim apostate girl Ibtihal was assigned a lawyer to represent her in court. The first hearing was conducted in less than 10 minutes. When the court asked the lawyer whether the suspected Sudanese girl was guilty or not, she answered, Her client Ibtihal, who is also known as Mastora, is not guilty. Based on that, the Athenian criminal court set another hearing date.